What's going on, everybody? This is Nick Lawson from Squad Sports. We're really excited to be supporting the Free Agent Friday series. A lot of great talent out there. Without further ado, this is the next free agent you should be signing with your sports team.
All right, we're back for another Free Agent Friday, and I have Zach Paul with me. How you doing, Zach?
Doing good. I know we were actually just talking about this for a little bit too. You got my name right. Everything's all good there. You're the one of the few people that hasn't called me Zoe after seeing my email. So I think we're in the clear and we're good there.
I passed the first test. Passed the first test. All right, let's get rolling. Tell me about your school experience that you have. Where'd you go to college? What degrees?
Yeah, so I actually went over to college over at the University of Iowa, big time Hawkeye. Was there from 2011 to 2015, and actually have some really great professors I know from over there. Dan Matheson being one. Used to work for the Yankees. Anna Jensen, Packy Moran. Great people to learn from, especially in the sports space. And then afterwards, I went over to graduate school in 2016. Feels so long ago now that it was 2016, believe it or not. I went over to Northern Illinois University and got a chance to learn underneath Steve Howell over there. Also a great mentor and a friend that I really have kept throughout my entire career.
Nice. What did you do any internships while you were in school?
You know, Iowa, I definitely didn't get the chance to do as much in terms of internships. I did them actually over in at NIU in my graduate school experience. What I did do over at Iowa was I was a part of a practicum course. This was probably, I'd like to say, the end of my junior year, somewhere in that time space. So I switched majors. Like it must have been very beginning of my junior year or midway through my junior year, because I'll be honest, like most people, I didn't even realize you could work in sports one day, and I was just
It's weird. I've had a lot of people say that. And I guess looking back, coming out of high school, it's like, who thinks about that? Think about players and that kind of thing.
It was so weird. I found out about it and I was just like, yo, I'm game. Like at that time, like you have to understand the college sports mindset. I'm getting up for Hawkeye games, probably at like 6 or 7 in the morning. There's freshman and sophomore years, I had times where I would go and camp out with like dorm buddies in front of Kinnick and just try and get down to the very front. And for some games it's a little bit different, but from the business standpoint and why I wanted to be involved there, like I really like going into college. I always thought, you know, I'm gonna be a lawyer one day. Sorry, mom. I'm gonna be doing this one day. Sorry, mom. And then I came here and we had people coming up to us and talking to us from the league. At the time, it was arena football, people from the MLB. Like I said, my professor, Dan Matheson, you know, he used to work for the Yankees one day. And for a guy called George Steinbrenner, that's a wealth of knowledge to learn from in and of itself. And I think about once a year, he'll have a sock drawer somewhere that he'll just throw a sock out. And all of a sudden out of nowhere, you're looking at 4 rings and you're just like, I can kind of see myself doing some of the work that he did one day. And yeah, it's been a wild experience ever since. I mean, I know there's other things you can ask in the meantime, but I mean, my original ambition with getting started in sports started with like, hey, you know, like I'm kind of interested. I get up all the time. I've gone to games with my father, obviously being in Chicago in my entire life. I wonder what it's like on the business side of things.
So when you got out of school, or even if it was in school, what was kind of that first taste of actually working in sports?
Failure. Big time failure.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Those are the best though. My failures, I've learned the most. Yeah, and I got more out of failing than I've gotten out of the success.
Oh man, like I remember, you know, I graduated, and one of the things my parents would consistently tell me in 2015, you know, you need to get a job. You need to get a job. You need to get a job. I get calls from my mom. Like this was a couple of, not even a week or two after I graduated, and she's like, "Did you get a job yet?" And I'm like, "Oh, like oh man." So the first experience I really had, like even diving into the resume a little bit, was I was working as an account executive over with the Iowa Energy. Now currently the Iowa Wolves is part of the G League. Yeah, miserable failure. Ticket sales was something I had always wanted to explore. It was something I always wanted to get more experience in school. And then I was finally getting offered that job out of school. And I was like, yo, this is great. And I wasn't prepared. Like, oh my God, I was such a kid. I was such a kid at that time. I needed to do more training. I didn't know anything about like a LinkedIn at that point in time. It's funny because I was just in a place where 4 or 5 years ago, the one of the top sellers in the G League was like on staff at my previous employer. And I never got a chance to like go up to the dude and be like, hey, I learned about you like 4 years ago throughout that time. I should have done more things like you at that point. But yeah, no, it was a great teacher. I left that position and then got started back in Chicago. You know, I'm coming back. I'm looking at different spaces. You know, that at that point in time, I was like, you know, maybe I should go to grad school or do a couple different things. Obviously, that momentous failure on my side of learning that, hey, maybe I need to learn a little bit more before I dive back into ticket sales was huge. And I came back, tried to get other experiences, tried to learn a little bit more in the meantime. And then somewhere out of nowhere, we went from early 2016 to I had no jobs, no job prospects. I was not doing much in that space when I came back to Chicago in 2016. To then you go to like the end of the year of 2016. I've now worked for the world champion Chicago Cubs as a raffle ticket seller. And trust me, when we get to memorable moments later, remind me to bring that back up. I've worked for the Bulls. I've worked for all these other teams. I can go on and on with the list, but the summary is I worked for 6 different professional sports teams at one time as a part-timer. And that really taught me a lot about time management. Like Google Calendar is a huge savior at the end of the day for anybody that's looking at this outside of that. And it gave me an opportunity to get back into grad school and really focus on what I wanted to do. And the theme that I kept running myself into wasn't just ticket sales and going on that route. It was really like, hey, bro, you really are concentrated on like helping charities and helping communities and doing different things. That's what sent me on this 3-year path. And it's what's really kept me up. Like even with everything that's gone on over the past couple of weeks, it still made me really hopeful about the future when we get into 2021, 22, and especially getting into the CR and that space, especially back into sports or even corporate social responsibility at this point.
What was your last position that you had?
So my last position that I was in was as I was a coordinator over with Spurs Give for Spurs Sports and Entertainment. And I gotta tell you, I absolutely loved that job. Oh my God. Like it was easily the most positive experience that I've had working in the sports industry. And I mean, obviously over the past week, it's been sad. As you recently know, I just was laid off. And even then, like I'm finding like those little like happy moments where I get a chance to like relive some of those memories because I had like the best game day desk anybody could ever ask for. And that's like one of the cool memories I get to take in place. But I had so many people that I worked with that I consider like more like family than I do than I do in some cases. And I have friends that I've made out here ever since that it's just like that more than anything beyond having, you know, like support from family from back home and everything has been what's getting me into the next process and keeping me hopeful. Because I got to be honest with you, like it's been the you know, day one was really rough. Day two, okay, it's a little better, and then now we're moving into the space where it's like, okay, look, you can make a plan, you can enjoy everything that's gone on. And I mean, like, look, you had what I would have considered a dream job for almost like 2 years. Now you're on and looking for the next one.
What kind of stuff did you work on with the foundation?
Yeah, so primarily I was, and that's a very complicated question when it comes to ever since we went on to hiatus. Primarily, I was hired to be the 50-50 raffle coordinator for Spurs Give. So my job was essentially to coordinate that program, hire raffle representatives, and get it to a place to where it was successfully running. where that kind of developed after the hiatus went on, and seeing some of the success that it had even before then. And I'm going to take a lot of pride in seeing where that goes even beyond this. I was doing everything from like helping with restaurant coordination. I was writing grants. I mean, from my standpoint, I was already a manager, having different conversations with a part-time staff. But I mean, even beyond that, it just the position in and of itself went from, hey, you're solely working in fundraising and learning a couple different aspects, to then all at one time you're a fundraiser, you're working on the programming side. I was helping and putting together some events that were specific to what I was doing as a fundraiser. And then I was doing a lot of help and other work to help with people on other sides too. When it came to our youth sports side, I became a micro league coach on our end, trying to help teach youth soccer. I still have, that's one of my favorite long sleeve shirts. Like it's still over in my closet over here. But I mean, I got a chance to do a ton. I was on a committee as well with our social activities committee with the team. Yeah, I mean, it's one day, somebody said at one point in time, your day to day isn't gonna ever be the same in sports. And man, that person really should have put that on a painting and put it up in my house.
Yeah, no, that's for sure. It's always evolving. What are you gonna do today? So is it safe to say that you kind of want to be in that nonprofit or community side of sports?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I think that, one of the things that I've looked at when it comes to my dream job for the future, and keep in mind, I'm also going to put like a caveat for some of my weaknesses as well on this. My dream job when it came to being in the sports industry was always being a manager on the community relations side of things, the community engagement portion side of the industry, especially on the foundation side. And whether that was as a fundraising manager or as a programming manager, realistically, what my goal was, it never was about like this next step to build a resume. And I know how this is going to sound, because I even like uttering those words sounded like a little grimy to me, but like truly what I wanted to do with that specific ambition and with that love for being able to fundraise and being part of a team. First off, the sports platform is immensely powerful on the team side, whether you're on the social media end with like a Bleacher Report or anything. Like it's immensely powerful and it's very helpful. It shapes our culture and it binds all of us. But it also specifically with that ambition would allow me to be able to help grow people and allow me to be able to help more people. And somewhere I'm gonna like hear, because I'm like an only child, like I hear one of my parents being like, "You're one of the most selfish people I ever knew." Like, what's going on? Like this was like over the course of about like 3-4 years. This is what I developed, and this was where I wanted to go. Like, I truly can tell you, it was my passion. It's where I still see myself going here in the future. Even though we're gonna probably hit pause for a little bit, just as many people in the industry are, to let everything recover a little.
Yeah, it will bounce back at some point. So hopefully everybody gets positioned and gets back as quick as possible. What would you say is the biggest strength that you bring to a new position?
Well, I'd say specifically when it comes to the strengths, first and foremost, I'm not a 9-to-5 guy. And I say that specifically because I don't see a 9-to-5 mentality being something that you can take in this industry, just from experience. But even beyond that, what it means for me specifically, I'm passionate, I'm determined. Even beyond that, like the strengths that I bring personally, I'm responsible, I'm a communicator. I've had to learn a lot throughout the course of my career to even be able to bring some of those things up. I'm very focused, and one of the things is I like to be an activator. Like I like to get a chance to chat with some of my coworkers. Hey, you have an idea? How can we move this from an idea to it's something that we're executing? If not this week, within the month. Like that's where I see those strengths lying. But even beyond that, and just some of the other, like personally, I'm more of a, like my mind thinks more analytically. that my strength comes from being able to take a step back and be able to analyze where I'm going to be going with something. And it's one of the things that I like to be able to say when it comes to like risk aversion and in different things. Like it doesn't hurt to like ask an extra question or two. Earlier on in my career, I'd be the person to just kind of like go full force and just be like, yeah, and it would get me into this mindset of making assumptions. Like I'd assume someone would want this. I'd assume this was going to happen. And then when something went the complete other way, you're like, yo, what's going
Yeah.
What just happened?
Sometimes it's better just to communicate, Yeah,
luckily someone pulled me aside in the meantime. Was just like, I want you to, you make a lot of assumptions, like take a step back a little bit. Probably one of the better pieces of advice that I've gotten. So I can now at least be able to tell you, hey, I like think a little bit more analytically. I'm not just going to be like, yep, okay, let's just go ahead.
Well, with that being said, on the strength side, how about the weakness? What do you need to work on most?
Oh, the weaknesses one is the one this one specifically is, I had to think of myself in a very hurtful way, but I mean, realistically and truthfully, I think it is that I'm still learning how to think bigger. I specifically throughout the course of my college career was like I said, pretty limited, like my first 2 years. And I think that specifically I've been learning so much as I go throughout this process of being in a career, being employed, and learning a little bit more about how other people think. That, I have conversations where I'm just like, you know what? I should probably get a chance to talk with this person a little bit more because, they're kind of a little ahead of this game called life than I am right now. But that was one of the things I saw as one of the bigger weaknesses. I'm still learning. I'm still taking in information and trying to figure out, just like a lot of people, what could make this, instead of it being something that's great, even bigger, something that's going from a national thing to a global type of icon. And I luckily had someone that I recently worked with that luckily was so futuristic that I got a chance to like sit down in a room every once in a while and just be like, yeah, okay, I need to write down some of the things that she's thinking and how to actually move from being what I would say is my second weakness to, hey, we need to take a little bit more chances when it comes to anything that we're doing. And luckily, that's what a lot of my second year of employment was like in my previous position. Like a lot of it, when it comes to like risk aversion, I feel like it's more of like some people will say like risk aversion is like hey, like this is the guy that won't jump out of the plane even though he has the parachute on. And I want you to realize right now,
that would be me. I wouldn't jump.
I'm totally that guy. I'm like, yo, like what if this thing doesn't work and I'm catapulting all the way down to the ground and then I got to worry about people seeing me on the news a little bit later and all these different thoughts. But no, like when I think about like areas that I could even improve on, some of those weaknesses when it comes to risk aversion, that was something like very early in my career I really struggled with. Like, am I going to say, like, if I say this, will it be this or will do this? Or if I do this, will it hurt this much monetarily? And the reason I see that more as a weakness now and looking back on it is because it's overthinking and it doesn't allow you to get to a place where you can easily go from, hey, you're overthinking this a little bit. Let's just give something a try, to then going and executing on something. And I took some pretty big risks in my second year of employment, and I happily can tell you that I had some failures. I had some huge successes, which I was glad for as well. But I mean, this past couple of years of learning about how to take that weakness and really turn it upside down and learn a little bit more is just all about like, hey, I just got to learn how to be uncomfortable every once in a while.
Oh yeah, definitely do. Let's kind of flip it over to something fun. Like, give us like a fun fact about yourself.
All right. So fun fact about myself. The reason that you see, there's two reasons behind this. The reason you see me with the amount of hair that I have right now is for two reasons. One, I obviously don't want to put any of my barbers at risk out here to cut this chrome dome off the top. And when I did
Keep it, man. It's cool.
I looked like Lex Luthor. Like I was walking out of the arena one day, and this fan was just like, "Hey, check it out. He looks like Lex Luthor," and I'm just like, "I'm never doing this again. I'm never cutting it all off." But no, like, what that conceals right now is the fact that I have a gigantic divot in my head somewhere here from a foul ball that I caught off the noggin during 2016 during the Cubs World Series run. Oh my God!
While you were selling 50-50 tickets?
Yeah, while I was selling raffle tickets, I'm up on the first base side, up on the very upper decks. This is like I even forget the sections, but it might be like 400s, 500s. Like it's up there. And I'm coming down. I take a seat. Someone wants a raffle ticket one day. And, I take a normal seat down. It's in the middle of play. I tried to stay down whenever it was in the middle of play. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, everybody would start tossing cash over. While I'm doing that, I'm completely oblivious to everything that's going on for play for a little bit. They restart they're coming up to the next inning. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, I feel sharp pain off the top of my head. And I'd just been hit by a foul ball. It had bounced over into another section. So someone else had got that foul ball. I'm still perfectly conscious. I really still am perfectly conscious at this time. And, I had an usher come over and be like, "Are you okay? Like, is this, that, or the other going?" "No, I'm okay. Don't worry. I'll be just fine." Like I kind of like no-sold it a little bit, as they say in wrestling. I kind of no-sold it a little bit and just kind of like kept going on. And then later on in that same game, at the same day, get whacked over the back of the head by a gigantic thing of beer. It was a beer vendor that was just trying to get past, and we both just kind of exchanged that. I'm just like, he's just like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry." Everybody's just
You got 2 concussions in one night.
What was this like? It was like game. I'm trying to remember. This must have been like game 3 or 4, but it was like, hey man, wow. People earned their rings throughout the course of that series. I'd like to say, like, when I take the ring out in and of itself, I take a look at it and I'm just like, there's been a lot of blood, sweat, and tears poured onto this ring, the least of which being my own. I'm always going to remember this series. Never would have seen that happening, no matter if I was working full time or part time, all those years ago.
Well, I mean, it's probably not a great thing, but it's a cool story. At least you're gonna remember that game forever, probably. But hey, I appreciate you joining me today. I love the passion that you have. You can see it and hear it. So hopefully that comes across to some people out there looking for good talent. So we'll keep in touch, and good luck.
Appreciate it, Andrew.